How you doing? My name's Timothy Lawson. I was born in Concord, California, May 5th, 1982. I'm 33 years old right now. I grew up mostly in Los Angeles, California. When I was younger, I experienced self-worth issues at a real young age. My mother and my father got divorced when I was about 2 years old. And so then that took me into, sometime thinking I wasn't good enough and not having a father figure around, but the Lord blessed me doubly with the kind of mother He gave. And so, she put herself through school, worked 2 jobs, and her main outlet to teach us the Lord was the church. And so from a young age, she always had us in church. And it was like God was fighting for me, even though I started life, with a handicap, as most of us do in this life. And so we were in Sabbath school. We were at all the youth programs. I mean, we were everywhere growing up. But even though God was fighting on this side, the devil still was fighting on this side. With mom being busy, she couldn't always be around. And at a young age, I really got involved into what would become my sin of choice later, is lust. And so I started watching things on TV that a young 6, 8-year-old, should never see at that age. And then it planted a seed and a desire in me, to fulfill that lust of fornication that I would really indulge later on in life at an earlier age. And so now I'm in high school, and, I lost my virginity at 16, and it was, girls, girls, girls. I had to dress nice. I had to be the cool kid. I had to put on this facade because I really didn't know what a man was like. And I identified having my manhood with how many girls I can get or how many people like me, since I didn't have a male around to show me. And at this point, I was still in church, but mentally I was actually out of church. And so I was at church and I was listening to all the sermons and I heard all the preaching, but my heart wasn't really in church. And so the devil found a way to fight to keep me out of church while still keeping me in church. And a lot of that's happening today. A lot of people who are young or who are the age I was, 16 or 15, they're in church because their parents have them there, but they really don't know Jesus. They really don't have a solid, real relationship with Jesus. And that was me at that age. But the Lord was good. And so at 17, He actually sent this evangelist in here in Sacramento, California, and they did a tent effort. And at that tent effort, man, I really got to know Jesus for the first time. And so every night I would go in this tent meeting, I would hear this evangelist preach, and I couldn't believe that all these truths were in my church. And every night I took notes. So I took notes at the tent meeting, and then after I would leave from the tent meeting, I would go home, and then it was like I would have tent meeting part 2 at the house. And so it would just be me and the Holy Spirit and Jesus. And everything the evangelist went over, I would go over again, just with my notes, just with my Bible, and I would research and read it again, and I was getting convicted and converted through those whole 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, I decided to get baptized, to give my heart to the Lord, and now I was gun-ho for the Lord. I started colporting, I started preaching, I started teaching, I started doing, week of prayers. When I finally graduated from high school, I went out to college, and I was passing out National Sunday Law books, on the college campus. I was still preaching, I was still studying, and I had, some just wonderful experience with the Lord, just me and Him in ministry. But that one sin that I never got over, I kept that one sin for myself. And all the devil needs, especially in these last days, is one foothold. All he needs is one thing. One sin that you hold on to can neutralize the power of the gospel in your life. And I never let the women go. I never let lust go. I told the Lord I would keep this sin for myself. I would do everything else for Him, but for Him to just give me some time off this. And slowly but surely, now the devil began to lead me out of the world step by step. First, he sent trials my way. Then he sent problems with school my way. Then he sent a love for the world my way, and through music and through hanging out with different friends. Me who was in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, preaching to people, teaching other people the message, I begin to smoke cigarettes. I begin to drink alcohol. I begin to smoke weed. And I just told myself I would do weed, but then I began to even take cocaine and use and abuse cocaine. And because I had so much pride in me, I couldn't let the drug have power. So instead of using the drug, I said I need to make money off of it as well. And with the series of trials that happened, the devil set up a way where I thought I had to sell the drugs now. It was a point of time when my mom wasn't working, and so I thought I had to help her pay bills. And so I first started selling weed. I can remember it was one of my friends, and he was selling it, and I told him I need to know how to sell it. And I still remember the day, I bought my first ounce of weed, and I put it in the shoebox, and I bought my scale, and I bagged it all up. And this is the lifestyle I began to live, a guy who grew up in church and who knew the message and who knew the Lord. It was like first the Lord had me, and then the devil had me. And then first the Lord had me, and now the devil had me again, and I was full-fledged, tattoos, partying, drinking, wherever the women were at, that's where I was at. Whatever the television and music taught you that you were a man, that you could get women, that's the kind of lifestyle I lived, until everything came to a head in 2009. I had my first daughter out of wedlock. She was 2 years old, and me and her mom weren't in a good relationship, so I now just got her. We used to switch off weeks. She would have her 1 week, I would have her the next week. And so now I got my daughter this week, and I stopped by the liquor store, kind of, just like the liquor store we're in front of right now, and I picked me up a fifth of gin, and I was going to sit at the house and drink that night. But what happened is I forgot to go to the grocery store, and we didn't have any food in the house. And when you drink alcohol, you get, a little hungry. And so it was 3 in the morning, and I decided to go to Jack in the Box. But remember, there's a problem. I'm drunk off alcohol, and I have a 2-year-old baby with me. So I decide, with the great brain power that I have drunk off the alcohol, I can just go up the street with my little baby in the car, and that 10-minute trip turned into a 10-month trip. Long story short, a cop got behind me, pulled me over, and I got in a high-speed chase, even with my little daughter in the car. I got caught by the police, and I had to do 10 months in prison. They really gave me 2 years and a half, and I had to do 1 year, but I got some time knocked off. And in that prison cell is where the Lord began my conversion experience. Every single day I was in that cell, I read my Bible from cover to cover. And I was still listening to the same music, still had the same plans, but the Lord began to do something inside my heart. And this experience, not that the other one was fake, it began to be real. It began to be like it was either this way or no way. Got out of prison, still stubborn to a certain extent, still wouldn't put the alcohol down and the partying down, until one night I was at my mom's house with a bottle of tequila, and a voice clear as day, just like I'm talking to you right now, I heard this voice clear as day. It said, "What are you doing?" It said, "I've been with you too much and I've taught you too much for you to be halfway in the world and halfway with me. Decide now." And at that moment, it's not like the liquor was that important to me, but it seemed like a controversy began to stir in my mind, because if I knew if I put this bottle down that I wasn't going back, I was going to stop. I wasn't going to drink anymore. I wasn't going to smoke anymore. I wasn't going to live this lifestyle. I was going to be 100% with Christ, 100% with God. And, that was in 2010 in February. I threw the bottle of alcohol away, and I haven't touched it since. And I put my hand in the Lord, and I've been walking, to the heavenly Canaan ever since then. Nowadays, just what the Lord had me doing when He first converted me as a kid, He has me doing now. I'm a part of a ministry called Christ Frontline Operations. We're a group of young people that go around, doing literature evangelism door to door, holding conferences, trying to teach other young people how God pulled us out of the fire and how they can have the same experience. I'm an elder at Southgate Seventh-day Adventist Church. The Lord has me working in the church work. I also am starting a ministry called Tribe of Gad Ministries, where we go around preaching the three angels' message and righteousness by faith, but we also have a purity ministry. And the same problems with lust I struggled, I want to help young men overcome them. I want to know that there's some place or some person that young men can talk to about pornography, about masturbation, about lust, about all the stuff they're feeling, and know that God can give you victory over those things, just like He gave me victory. And also, last but not least, right now the Lord also has me working in the food ministry, in cooking, mixing it with evangelism, And not only that, but somebody who thought he could get all these girls, the Lord tamed me down into just one woman. And so the Lord got me married. You know, I'm the father of 3 beautiful daughters, and I really want to raise them and train them so that they don't have a young man treat them the way I used to treat those, you know, young ladies back in the day. And I have a lovely wife. And so the Lord been just blessing me on and on, tremendously and tremendously. And so in your life, sometimes it seems like you want to do right, and then sometimes it seems like you have this pull to want to do wrong. And I just want to let you know, that's called the great controversy. There is a devil that dislikes you, and he does hate you. He wants you to work for him. He's always not going to come in something that's disdainful. Like he did with me, he's going to come with something that's pleasing, something that's tasteful, something that attracts you. But this thing would be your downfall and destruction. And as much as he dislikes you, there's also a God in heaven who loves you so much more. He wants you to choose his way. He wants you to choose his path. He wants to take the blinders off so you really see the devil wants you like he had me, locked up, nowhere to go, addicted to alcohol, loving not only to take the drugs, but to sell the money and to give them to other people and destroying lives instead of building them up. But Christ wants to give you power to build up people's lives. Not only your own life, but also other people's lives as well. And if you put your hand in his, he can give you a testimony of how powerful he can change your life.